It was a Tuesday night like any other. Los Angeles buzzed under the warm glow of late spring. The Hollywood skyline gleamed as though anticipating something wild. Over at the El Capitan Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, the Jimmy Kimmel Live crew was in full swing prepping for one of their most hyped guests in recent memory, Sylvester Stallone. Stallone, the iconic face of American grit, the legend behind Rocky and Rambo, was in town promoting a surprise project, Rocky: Redemption, a satirical animated miniseries where Rocky Balboa trains a talking kangaroo to box corrupt politicians. Critics were baffled. Fans were intrigued. But everyone agreed on one thing: it was peak Stallone. Kimmel, never one to miss an opportunity to mix humor with a side of Hollywood chaos, decided to take a different approach. Instead of the usual cushy, respectful celebrity interview, he wanted to poke a bit of fun at Stallone. After all, it was a new age, snarky memes, viral roasts, and online battles ruled late night now. What could go wrong? Well, a lot, apparently. Backstage, Stallone was quietly doing one-armed push-ups in his dressing room. Dressed in a black leather jacket and custom Italian boots, he looked more like a 1985 action figure than a man in his 70s. But this was Stallone's comfort zone: bright lights, high energy, and a microphone? Child's play? His assistant, Mickey, yes, named after that Mickey, walked in with a worried face. "Yo, Sly. You sure you want to do this? I heard Kimmel's writers have a whole bit where they do some kind of Rocky roast segment." Stallone smirked. "Let him try. I've taken punches from Clubber Lang and gone 12 rounds with Drago. Jimmy Kimmel? That guy's got baby hands." The crowd outside cheered as the house band cued up the theme from Rocky with a hilarious jazz twist. The cameras rolled and the booming voice of the announcer echoed, "Tonight on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Music by the Killers, an interview with NASA's youngest astronaut and Sylvester Stallone." Kimmel walked out to a standing ovation. Thank you," he beamed. "We have a fantastic show tonight, unless you're a guy who thinks punching meat is cardio. Then you might want to change the channel." The audience chuckled. A subtle jab at Rocky, and the first of many. Kimmel was warming up. 10 minutes later, Stallone stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. He shook Kimmel's hand with the force of a wrecking ball, nearly dislocating the host's wrist. "Yo, Jimmy," he said in that iconic gravelly voice, "this place smells like a perfume counter at the mall." The audience erupted. The tone was set, and it wasn't going to be your typical celebrity interview. Kimmel leaned into it. "You know, Sly, people are saying your new project is interesting. Rocky trains a kangaroo? Was Cocaine Bear not available for a sequel?" Stallone grinned. "Funny. I was gonna cast you, but the kangaroo had better abs." Boom. The studio exploded with laughter. Kimmel laughed too, but there was a moment, a flicker, where he realized Stallone wasn't here to take hits. He was here to dish them out. The next 20 minutes would become the stuff of internet legend. Kimmel leaned back in his chair, adjusting his tie like a man trying to buy time. The crowd was still howling from Stallone's better abs zinger, and the cameras had caught the briefest glimmer of "oh no" in Kimmel's eyes. But Jimmy was no rookie. He'd handled Kanye rants, Matt Damon pranks, and Guillermo's tequila-fueled antics. He wasn't about to let a Hollywood relic dominate his turf. Or so he thought. "So, Sylvester," Kimmel began, trying to regain control, "in your new show, Rocky trains a kangaroo named Joey to fight corrupt politicians. Can I ask what you were smoking when you came up with this?" Stallone didn't blink. "It's called creativity, Jimmy. You might want to try it sometime instead of recycling jokes from 2009. Oof. That one hit harder than a Balboa uppercut." Jimmy laughed it off, tapping his desk nervously. Touché. But come on, a boxing kangaroo? What's next, Rambo versus the Muppets?" Stallone leaned forward, locking eyes. If Rambo fought the Muppets, Kermit wouldn't make it past the first act. The audience lost it. Stallone's delivery was flawless, deadpan, with that slightly exaggerated accent that made everything sound like a threat and a punchline at the same time. He was part comedian, part mob boss, part meme. Kimmel tried a new tactic. He reached under his desk and pulled out a giant cardboard cutout of Stallone from Cobra, sunglasses, matchstick in mouth, muscles oiled like a Thanksgiving turkey. "I just want to know," Kimmel grinned, "when you look at this, do you feel proud or a little embarrassed?" Stallone stood up from his seat, towering over Kimmel. That's a national treasure. That photo paid for 3 houses, 2 divorces, and a private gym where the dumbbells lift themselves." Boom. Another crowd eruption. Kimmel turned to the audience, raising his hands like, "What do I do with this guy?" Then he leaned in for one last dig. All right, I admit you look amazing for your age. I mean seriously. Most guys your age are yelling at squirrels in their front yard. Without missing a beat, Stallone replied, "That's 'cause squirrels owe me rent." Even the band lost it. At this point, Kimmel's planned Rocky Roast segment was completely off the rails. The cue cards lay abandoned on the desk. The producer in the control room could be heard screaming into the headset, "Just go with it. Let Sly run." And run he did. Kimmel, trying to pivot, reached for his next segment, rapid-fire Q&A. The game was simple, fast, funny questions. Stallone agreed, but warned, "You sure you want to do this? I hit harder when I don't think." They began. Kimmel, "If you weren't an actor, what would you be?" Stallone, "President of Italy. Or maybe Home Depot." Kimmel, "Who wins in a fight, Rocky or Rambo?" Stallone, "They don't fight. They open a deli in Jersey. Our inner sandwiches. Rambo handles the knives." Kimmel, "Most ridiculous rumor you've heard about yourself?" Stallone, "That I died in 2016. Twice. One guy even wrote a song about it." Kimmel, "Describe Hollywood in one word." Stallone, "Botox." Kimmel, "Describe Jimmy Kimmel in one word." Stallone, "Hostish." The final blow. The audience gasped, then cracked up so hard a guy in the front row fell off his chair. Even Kimmel couldn't contain it. He slammed the table with laughter and threw his cue cards into the air like confetti. "You win, Stallone. You win," Jimmy admitted, wiping tears from his eyes. "This was supposed to be a roast and you turned it into a stand-up special." Stallone shrugged, adjusting his jacket. "Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined." By the end of the segment, Twitter was melting down. Hashtags like hashtag Stallone slaps, hashtag Kimmel KO, and hashtag better abs than Jimmy were trending worldwide. TikTok had already clipped the "squirrels owe me rent" moment, and Instagram was flooded with Stallone reaction memes. What was supposed to be a light promotional interview had turned into one of the funniest, most chaotic live TV appearances in years. And Sly? He was just getting started. The commercial break was supposed to give everyone a breather. Jimmy sipped water like he'd just gone 10 rounds in the ring. Stallone? He looked like he'd just finished a warm-up jog. Casual. Cool. Unbothered. In the studio, the crew buzzed like they'd just witnessed a UFO sighting. The floor manager whispered into Kimmel's ear, "Social media's going nuts. They want more Sly. Cancel the next guest?" Jimmy blinked. "Cancel NASA's astronaut? Already on a rocket," the manager joked. "He'll understand." When they came back from break, Kimmel addressed the camera like a man surrendering with dignity. "Folks, welcome back to Jimmy Kimmel Live. Or, as it's now being rebranded, the Sylvester Stallone Comedy Hour." Stallone, sipping from a mug with the word kangaroo printed in big, bold letters, gave a sly wink to the crowd. "I accept your surrender, Jimmy. We'll build you a statue next to the one in Philly." Kimmel leaned over. "Do I at least get a head?" "Just the tie." The audience couldn't breathe. Stallone had them in the palm of his calloused, Rambo-forged hand. Then came a twist no one expected. Kimmel's team had a gimmick segment they called Lie Detector Lightning Round. It was a running bit where guests wore a goofy fake polygraph machine that lit up randomly and answered awkward questions. The goal? Make celebrities sweat. What they forgot was Stallone doesn't sweat. He makes sweat nervous. Okay, Kimmel grinned, rubbing his hands together. "Let's see if we can finally catch you off guard." Stallone agreed. "Hook me up, Doc. Let's see what you got." A prop tech came out and wrapped the device's straps around Stallone's arm. Lights blinked, buzzers buzzed. The whole thing looked like something from a 1950s sci-fi movie. "All right," Kimmel said. "Here we go." Kimmel, "Have you ever cried watching The Notebook?" Stallone, "Only when I realized Ryan Gosling stole my facial expressions." Machine, "Beep, true." Kimmel, "Did you ever forget your lines on the set of Rocky?" Stallone, "Once. But I punched the script supervisor and blamed it on method acting." Machine, "Beep, true." Kimmel, "Are your muscles still real?" Stallone, raises one eyebrow, "Wanna touch and find out?" Machine, "Loud beep, true." Kimmel reached forward, hesitated, then shook his head. "Nope. I'm not falling into that trap. That's how people end up in physical therapy." The segment kept rolling, with Stallone answering everything with dry wit and unshakable calm. Then Jimmy pulled out the wild card question, the kind of curveball designed to fluster any guest. Kimmel, "Okay, last question. In your honest opinion, who's funnier, Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon?" The audience went, "Oh who?" Even the band paused. Stallone leaned back, crossed his arms, and paused dramatically. A full 10 seconds passed. People held their breath. Then he leaned in, looked directly into the camera, and said, "Jimmy Neutron." The room exploded. People were on their feet. The band played the Rocky theme. Confetti cannons left over from New Year's were somehow fired. Kimmel doubled over in laughter, slapping the desk. That's it. We're done. We peaked. In the chaos, Stallone casually stood up, walked over to Guillermo, and fist-bumped him. Guillermo, who had been silently sipping tequila through the entire show, raised his glass and declared, "This man is my hero." The camera crew could barely keep up. The studio had turned into a comedy stadium. The comment section on the live stream was blowing up. Stallone 2024. This man's a national treasure and a stand-up comic? He just neutron-bombed both Jimmys. But Stallone wasn't done yet. He walked back to the interview chair and grabbed the mic off the desk. "Hey Jimmy," he said, his voice steady and just loud enough. "Want to know why I did this show?" Kimmel nodded, eyes wide. "I did it because I wanted to see what it's like to be the host." The audience fell silent, unsure what he meant. Then the house lights dimmed, a new spotlight hit the center of the stage, and on the studio monitor, the words appeared. "Coming soon, Late Night with Sylvester Stallone." The teaser rolled. It was real. A limited-run summer special, 5 episodes on a streaming platform. Stallone hosting. Interviews, comedy, wild antics, and yes, kangaroo cameos. Kimmel's jaw dropped. You hijacked my show to promote your show?" Stallone grinned. "I call it tactical promotion. Rambo style." The second Stallone's teaser ended, the internet went thermonuclear. Twitter transformed into a non-stop waterfall of reaction memes. Instagram reels flooded with fan-edited montages of Stallone's best burns. Reddit threads popped up like prairie dogs on espresso, titled things like, "Stallone just body-slammed late-night TV, Jimmy Kimmel roasted like a Thanksgiving turkey by a man in his 70s, Sylvester Stallone, from action hero to savage king." And YouTube? Oh, YouTube was already 15 steps ahead. Dozens of creators were uploading clips titled "Stallone Destroys Kimmel Live," unedited, or "Kimmel's Funniest Humiliation Ever," with thumbnails showing Jimmy wide-eyed while Stallone posed mid-mic drop. Back in the studio, the mood was half late-night TV, half college frat party. Stallone was now lounging on the interview couch like he owned the place, legs crossed, mug in hand, the faintest smile playing on his face. Kimmel, still shell-shocked but loving the ride, looked straight into the camera. "Well, folks, I don't even know what show this is anymore." The crowd howled. "And just to clarify, you really have a late-night special coming?" "Yup," Stallone said with a nod. 5 episodes. Me, some guests, a live band, and a robot kangaroo that plays saxophone." Kimmel blinked. "That's not real." "It is now," Stallone replied, dead serious. The audience roared again. "And guess what, Jimmy?" Stallone added, pointing his mug at the host. "You're my first guest." The studio gasped. Kimmel stared, dumbfounded. "You want me on your show?" "You've earned it," Stallone smirked. "I need someone to laugh at my jokes while I do sit-ups." Jimmy laughed hard. "I can't do sit-ups." "That's fine. You'll just watch. Bring popcorn." Suddenly, a stagehand ran out mid-segment and whispered into Kimmel's ear. Kimmel's eyebrows shot up. "Wait, seriously? We just got word, your segment broke our YouTube live stream record. Over 2 million watching right now." The audience cheered. And Kimmel continued, "The president of our network is texting me. One sentence, give Stallone whatever he wants." Stallone raised an eyebrow. "Tell him I want a punching bag shaped like Twitter." Meanwhile, backstage, chaos was brewing. Publicists were frantically fielding requests from other networks. TMZ had already parked outside the studio. A man claiming to be from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert tried to sneak in wearing a janitor uniform. Security escorted him out gently but firmly. Inside, Stallone was now running the show. "All right," he said, standing up and pacing like a coach before a big game. "Enough about me. Let's talk about you, Jimmy." Kimmel looked confused. "What? You've been in this chair a long time. How come you never throw punches? How come you always play nice? You ever think about what would happen if you stopped being the nice guy?" Jimmy paused. "Is this therapy?" Stallone smiled. "It's called Hollywood self-defense. Rule number 1, never bring cue cards to a street fight." The band launched into a jazzy version of Eye of the Tiger. The lights dimmed. The cameras zoomed. Stallone walked over to Jimmy's desk and, to everyone's horror, flipped it onto its side. Gently. Respectfully. But still. "This," he declared, "is how you take over a show." The audience went wild. The desk flip instantly became a meme, with captions like, "When you're 76 and still more alpha than every TikToker combined." Kimmel, now sitting on the edge of the stage, grinned. "You realize we have like 14 sponsors watching this, right?" Stallone shrugged. "Tell them to sponsor me. I've got a kangaroo with better timing than half their ad campaigns." Suddenly, a familiar face burst onto the set, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The audience erupted. "Yo, Jimmy," Arnold said in his thick Austrian accent, walking out casually in jeans and a bomber jacket. "He told me this was gonna be his show now." Stallone turned around slowly. "I said I wanted muscle on set, not a protein shake commercial." Arnold grinned. "You're just mad because I made more money in Kindergarten Cop than you did in Rambo 3. The crowd lost it. Kimmel's show had now become an unofficial action star summit. They hugged an awkward, legendary bro hug between two cinematic titans and posed for a photo. Jimmy, now third-wheeling on his own stage, looked into the camera and said, "Can we just rename the show already? The Expendables Talk Show Edition?" As the dust settled from the Schwarzenegger surprise, the Kimmel studio looked less like a talk show and more like the after-party of an 80s action movie wrap-up. The desk was flipped, the audience was still screaming, and Sylvester Stallone, now joined by Arnold, stood at center stage like a conquering king who'd just body-snatched late-night TV. Jimmy Kimmel, trying to keep the energy from flying completely off the rails, stood up, brushed imaginary dust off his jacket, and grabbed a microphone. "All right," he said. "Okay, let me just summarize here. Tonight on my show, I was roasted alive by a 76-year-old man who may or may not legally own a robotic kangaroo. My desk got flipped, and Arnold Schwarzenegger wandered in like this was his garage. Did I miss anything?" Stallone nodded seriously. "Yeah. You forgot to mention that this is now my studio." Jimmy raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." Sly turned to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I bought the building." The audience gasped. Kimmel's mouth dropped open. Arnold turned to Stallone. "You bought ABC?" Stallone smirked. "Nah, just the parking lot and the first floor. But it's enough to hang a banner." Suddenly, the curtain behind the band lifted to reveal a massive, hastily printed banner reading, "Welcome to Stallone Live, the new late-night champ." It looked like it had been printed by someone in the basement with 5 minutes and zero graphic design experience. But the effect? Iconic. Kimmel threw his arms up. "You hijacked my show and rebranded it?" Sly shrugged. "Hey, Rambo didn't ask for permission either." The band struck up a remix of the Rocky theme, now with extra saxophone flair. Guillermo walked out dressed as a ring girl holding a round card that said Round 5 in glitter paint. Confetti cannons launched again. It was chaos. It was beautiful. Then Sly raised his hand. The room fell silent. "You know," Stallone said, his voice softer now, more reflective, "I came on this show to have a little fun. But being here tonight, seeing all of you laugh, watching this place lose its mind, reminds me of why I started in the first place." A hush fell over the room. "I wasn't born with money. I wasn't born pretty. I had one crooked smile, a busted voice, and a dream. And I wrote Rocky with a ballpoint pen on scrap paper in a one-bedroom apartment. Everyone told me I was done before I ever started. But I fought. Every single day. You could hear a pin drop. So when I get the chance to stand on the stage and joke around, yeah, I'll flip a desk. I'll make you laugh. I'll bring in a robot kangaroo if I have to. Because life's too short not to make a little noise." The crowd rose to their feet, erupting into a full standing ovation. Even Jimmy stood, genuinely moved. Stallone smiled. "But don't get me wrong. I still have better abs than you, Jimmy." The laughter was explosive. Jimmy hugged him. "You're a monster, Stallone." Arnold leaned into the mic. "I want to be on your show too." Stallone winked. "Your episode 2, big guy." Cut to. The next morning. News outlets were ablaze. Every major talk show, even the ones that weren't late night, opened with clips from the Stallone-Kimmel showdown. The Hollywood Reporter called it the most unforgettable late-night moment in a decade. Variety dubbed it the return of the king of punchlines. Memes? Endless. A free frame of Stallone mid-desk flip captioned, "When the boss says act natural." A viral tweet, "If Stallone had hosted the Oscars, nobody would have slapped anybody. They would have clapped harder." TikToks reenacting the Jimmy Neutron line, complete with slow-mo edits and fireworks. Streaming platforms immediately began bidding for Stallone's limited series. By noon, his 5-episode special, Stallone Live, had landed a record-setting deal with a major platform, unnamed but rhymed suspiciously with Flicks. And Jimmy? He took it like a champ. On his show the following night, he opened with, "Last night, my show was taken over by Sylvester Stallone. If you missed it, good. I'm still recovering. My desk is in traction." He even brought the desk back on stage, now permanently cracked and signed by Sly himself. But the best moment came during the credits of that night's episode. A surprise post-credit clip rolled, Stallone, dressed in a tuxedo, seated in the host chair. He looked directly into the camera. "Hey Jimmy, next time you want a rematch, bring a helmet." Cut to black. That single appearance by Stallone didn't just trend, it redefined what a late-night guest could be. Authentic, hilarious, unscripted, raw. He came in as a guest and walked out as a legend. And maybe, just maybe, as the unofficial, undisputed heavyweight champion of late-night comedy.